These are my power rankings and pick'ems for VCT Pacific, the Stage 2 playoffs. So before we head into first the power rankings and then the pick'ems after, we're gonna take a quick look at the map elos and what they look like. So here we are, and as you can see at the top, there's Gen G. By this rating, they lost a bit since they got rolled by Nongshim. Then after that, you have DRX and PaperX pretty much at the same rating. Then after you have Talon in fourth place by this elo rating, who also lost a bit of elo due to them losing to PaperX. Then we've got RRQ in fifth, followed by T1 and Nongshim roughly with the same rating. And then the last playoff team being ZFM, who lost to T1 last week. That's why they lost a bit of rating. And that concludes the playoff teams who are by this rating. Also the top 8 teams, so fairly decent job by the elo rating. And then we've got Global Esports and Zeta Division as the two best non-playoff teams, followed by Team Secret and lastly Boom. I think this is overall a fairly reasonable elo rating, and how good it is and how true it will hold, we will kind of see within playoffs. Maybe I'll do a video after playoffs, kind of like looking back at it, what did the elo rating suggest might happen and how did it shake out. But yeah, these are the elo ratings going into playoffs, and now let's head into the power rankings. And here we are, and I would start off by putting PaperX in S tier. I think they've been the best team ever since they entered the playoff stage in Masters Toronto. Ever since then, they've been clearly the best team within Pacific, and they've continued to do so within Stage 2. They obviously had that loss against Zeta, where they looked a bit shaky, but then were kind of back to form. Or not back to full form, but a bit back against Talon, especially with something performing really well. And I think him performing really well is going to be crucial to this team's success, especially in Champions. So yeah, I would put them as the sole S tier team for the moment, since Gen G has looked kind of rough towards the back end of Stage 2, and especially, this might be recency bias a lot, but this loss against Nongshim kind of makes me question how good they actually are, and that's why I'm putting them in A tier alongside DRX. I think these two teams are interchangeable. I think realistically any of these two teams could be higher than the other, but I also wouldn't be surprised if either of these teams would contest PaperX for the win in Stage 2 playoffs. Then next up in B tier, we've got a couple of the playoff teams. I will put Talon the highest out of the teams, then RRQ, and then I would say it's pretty even between Nongshim and T1. I think you could realistically make an argument for either of these teams to be higher than the other, but just given their last match and their very dominant win against Gen G, I would put Nongshim above T1. Then in C tier, I would put one of the playoff teams and one of the teams that got eliminated in playoffs but looked really good at the end of, the group stage in DatFM and Zeta. I think these two teams have kind of, I mean, DatFM looked really good at the start of stage 2, and then Zeta has looked really good at the end of stage 2. So kind of hard to judge who of these two is actually better. Obviously, DatFM made playoffs and Zeta didn't. That's why I'm putting them above. But I would be really surprised if DatFM managed to actually do any damage in playoffs. Even though I would love to see DatFM perform well, I really like May. And it's always a pleasure to watch him and see him pop off. So yeah, maybe if that happens, there's a shot. But yeah, overall, I think the big, they're the big surprise team if they manage to do anything in playoffs. Even winning, like a match would probably be a surprise. Then we have in D tier Global, then Team Secret, and then Boom. These teams all didn't make playoffs, which is why they're down here. I think Global looked overall the best out of these three, but neither of these teams looked like they were actually able to compete with the teams that made playoffs, which is why they end up down here. So yeah, these are my power rankings locked in. And now let's head into the playoff Pickems and see what is gonna happen there. And first up, last week I've gone 5-1 in Pacific, so overall I did fairly decently with in Pacific, I would say. So now let's try and look at these playoffs. I think this is a really hard playoffs to make any guesses with Genji starting in the lower bracket. That's really surprising that they only came in 4th place in their group, and as many people, me included, have them as one of the top teams in the league. That's going to be really interesting. Also, just the middle of the pack, the teams fighting for that last champion spot are all fairly equal in skill, I would say. So it's going to be really interesting, this playoffs, and I think it's incredibly hard to predict. But let's still try our best, and yeah, let's start at the top. And the first match is Talon against Nongshim. I will favor Talon over Nongshim. As I've said, I think Talon looks kind of like the best out of the 4 teams that would be fighting for that last champion spot. Out of the 4 teams that I put in C tier, in B tier, and yeah, I really like the team, and I think they have always like great opportunities for individuals to really pop off, like either Tai or Killua or Primi. They all can have just an incredible map and end up solo carrying a map, so that's why I would put them above Nongshim, even though Nongshim looked really insane against Genji. Then RRQ against T1, I think this is also a game that could go either way, just as Talon Nongshim was, but I would favor RRQ. I think they've been more solid overall this year, and yeah, I think Jemkin has been performing really insane, and individuals from him can for sure take over in this game, even though with Team 1 Media might also have like an insane game. So there's possibilities for both of these teams. It's just my gut feeling is telling me RRQ. That's why I'm going with them. Then in the upper bracket, I would have DRX winning against Talon. Um, this is a really important match for Talon because Talon is one of the teams who needs to get top 2 to make it to champions. Talon and Nongshim both need to get top 2 to make it to champions. For RRQ and T1, both of these teams are probably through if they make top 4. So this will be a really important win for Talon, because if they win this, they have 2 shots to qualify themselves for champions. But yeah, I would have DRX winning against Talon here. And in the other upper bracket match, I would have Paper X winning against RRQ. As I've said before, I think Paper X just looked like the strongest team. So yeah, I would assume that they win this. And same with the next match, I think Paper X just looked too strong for me to believe in any other team over them. So yeah, that's what I'm going with the upper bracket. And now let's continue in the lower bracket with Nongshim against the FM. That FM could start like their miracle run against Nongshim, who are maybe the most beatable for them out of all the teams in playoffs. So we could see that happening, and I would be really excited if that's what we get. But I would assume that Nongshim wins against them. They've just been better ever since RB came in. The team has looked more solid overall. Their performances don't seem as fluky anymore, and yeah, I think they're really solid. Then Gen.G against T1, I would say Gen.G. They're just a better team overall, which would put them in a match against Talon. And this is what I mean by things being interesting with Gen.G starting in the lower bracket, because this is going to be, if this is how it happens, that's going to be a heartbreak game for Talon to lose to Gen.G here. Since Gen.G are just the better team, I would say. If Talon wins against DRX up here, and then they lose to Paper X, and then maybe they meet Gen.G or DRX here again, then maybe I could see a way how they manage to get top 2. But that is genuinely the only way how I see it happening. If they drop from here down to the lower bracket and play against Gen.G, I just don't see a world where they beat Gen.G. But if they happen to do so, then that would obviously start them having a great shot at making champions. But I would say that there's only a very slim chance of that happening. So then next up, RRQ against Nongshim, and this is once again a really close match. I think we're gonna get a lot of really close matches in Pacific playoffs. Pacific is probably the most stacked region right now. So I will put RRQ as the team winning this, which would mean that RRQ is the 4th team to make it to champions, alongside Pepper X, DRX, and Gen.G, who are like more or less safe to make it to champs. Gen.G maybe be the least out of these two, since these two start in the upper bracket as well. But yeah, I just don't see a world where Gen.G doesn't make a lower bracket run to at least top 4, where they would then be secured to make champions. And yeah, in that match then Gen.G versus RRQ, I would favor Gen.G. I think RRQ would be really happy in this case to have made it to that point already, and to have secured themselves making champions, and they would take a bit of the foot off the gas, and Gen.G would probably then just win because they have better fundamentals, in my opinion. I would say DRX against Gen.G is a really close match again, and maybe I mean, I think there are arguments for both of these teams. Both of these will have already made champions at this point, but obviously seeding is still very important. So, do you favor DRX, who won't have as much, won't have to play as much matches to that point, so there's not as much demos for other teams, plus they're not as fatigued maybe, or favor Gen G, who have been on a roll? And I think generally I would favor teams that have like gone on a run, since they're then on a roll and feel like everything's going so well and they don't feel like they can do any wrong, which is why I would favor Gen G. But I would then say that Paper Rex stops that Gen G run to win stage 2, since they just look like the best team in my opinion. These are my Pickems locked in. I think there's a lot of room for me to be wrong. I might just get everything wrong entirely, to be honest, and I wouldn't be surprised. That's just how close Pacific has been within stage 2 especially. And yeah, I just hope we get a lot of close games, a lot of bangers, and I hope I have at least a little bit of success with my playoff pick'ems. And I wish you guys luck with your pick'ems as well, and I'll see you guys next time.